Hey guys, Youngblood with you for another episode of Exploring the Starmap. This time we're going to focus in on a very small system known as Tamza. Now what makes Tamza so unique is that, as you can see on the screen, is instead of a star at the center of the system, it actually has a black hole at the center. And this is the only system in the Star Citizen verse that we're aware of to have this particular characteristic. This black hole was initially a massive Type O blue giant star that ran through its life cycle and ended up collapsing into its current state. Now, it may seem odd to have a black hole and actually have planets in orbit, but black holes have an event horizon, or basically a limit to where it can grab things and pull them in with no escape. But past that, there's some other borders that basically allow for opportunities for a system to persist, where basically they won't get yanked in and you get more of a stable gravitational field. It's going to be interesting to see how this environment ends up appearing in-game, because while it has no star to create light, meaning this could be a very dark place, it does also grab light and start to pull it into the center, so there could be some luminescence here. Now, my guess, and I'm no astrophysicist, is that we'll have some dim light kind of coming from that general area as light is pulled in, but considering once it passes the event horizon, it's going to be sucked into the black hole at some point, so I think it's going to be pretty dark overall. Either way, as far as the history of this system goes, it was discovered in 2943 by a Banu explorer coming through the one jump point in the system leading to Banshee. And the system was named after a mathematical artist named Tamza who was a Banu, who had her work described as both precise and chaotic, which is probably a pretty good summarization for this system as well. Now, there are currently 2 planets in orbit around this collapsed star, both of which are likely rogue planets that were captured and found a more permanent home around the black hole. The first of which, Tamza 1, is a planet that is really just the remains of an old gas giant that had its atmosphere stripped away, leaving behind just a super dense core. That dense core means that this could be a prime location for mining, as there should be a ton of minerals and ore here. However, with this being a newer system in terms of discovery, it's currently a protected planet under the Fair Chance Act. That being said, the chance for life developing here is going to be so low, it should be lifted eventually, and those of you with prospectors could probably make a killing here. Orion's probably not as likely to make money, considering there doesn't appear to be any clusters or asteroid belts, but in knowing that you can't land on planets, but knowing that there's a strong gravity at the center here, we may see some big asteroids being captured, but that would be some pretty dangerous work in my mind. Tamza 2 is another gas giant. It's about Jupiter's size, but this one somehow kept its atmosphere even though it was ejected from a system from somewhere else, which is something scientists in-game are currently studying, because it doesn't really make sense for them on how it could actually keep that atmosphere. Being a gas giant, it does have the possibility for being a refueling point, but we don't really know the composition based on what the CIG's provided us in lore, so it may not be of much use. If it provides to at least be a decent fuel scooping location, a Starfarer could pretty much easily make some good money here once the gold rush on Tamza 1 starts, considering there aren't really any support locations or really habitations here in this system. So if you're wondering how rogue planets come about, they're basically the result of planetary close calls, with gravity from one planet pulling so hard on another one that it yanks the soon-to-be rogue out of the star's orbit and sends it on a new trajectory out into space. There is currently actually a theory that this happened in our solar system around Sol, and some say that there was likely another gas or an ice giant that lived between Mars and Jupiter, primarily because the spacing in the orbits don't follow the trends of other systems, and the kind of the gap there between the 2 orbits doesn't really follow the trends that we see elsewhere in the system. It's possible that the planet no longer with us found the perfect place in its orbit around the Sun and in conjunction with the placement of Jupiter to where it could have been slingshotted out of the system. So this isn't something crazy that CIG just made up. This is a real thing that happens in space, and something that may have happened in our personal solar system. Now, this system's very interesting, and it's pretty unique, but initially there's probably not going to be the same levels of opportunity to earn credits that other systems may offer. That being said, there are some that come to mind in this current state, namely being like a hiding location, and that may not necessarily be about earning credits here, but it could kind of support operations elsewhere. If you're living outside the law or you're avoiding someone who is after you, there should probably be plenty of empty space here, with few prying eyes to find you. You may have to contend with some UEE presence as the planets are locked down currently, but at the same time, it's more about preventing damage to the planets and issues creating life, as opposed to just your presence here. So I think explorers could have a good time studying the planets that arrived here in orbit to try and figure out how they got here and why one ended up keeping its atmosphere and the other didn't. Now, it's a different ballgame once this thing actually gets opened up to mining, because I think prospectors and hull series ships are going to find a lot of work doing mining and hauling. Explorers could be of use to find the best locations for mining and selling that off for a profit. With lots of resources heading in and out of this system, Pirates could easily find some pickings here to lift goods, and obviously that means that escorts find a lot of value. And really any cargo ship that's able to bring in goods to support the operations here are going to make a lot of money, including food, replacement parts, structures. And then to take that even a little bit farther, ships like the Banu Merchantman and the Caterpillar could set up some shops for people to actually come and visit and not only give people a destination, but an easier experience in buying your goods. So I think once the system's opened up, there's going to be a lot of possibility, but until then, I think it's going to be more about getting creative or working outside the law to make a profit here. So that's the Tamza system. If you guys have questions, leave them in the comments. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more, and have a great day. Take care.